Guys, welcome to JPT. I'm Carson G, and this is Just Plain Tech. Alright, in today's video, we are going to go over some best budget computers to save on for anyone out there that is on a budget. Let's do it. Before we start this, just let me say one thing. This is the good part about computers. Now, computers age slower than cell phones do. Mobile phones usually age faster than a computer. So maybe you'd have to get a new phone every 3 to 5 years, when you'd have to get a new computer maybe every 10 or 15 years. That's just how it works. I know, I kind of don't like it either, but phones just age faster. Computers, you get them, and maybe after 3 years or something, or 5 years, you can put a new operating system on it, and you can just keep doing that for another 15 years. But phones, you get them, they last for 5 years, and then their support is ended, and there's so much better hardware, and your phone's just done, and it's time to get a new one. So just remember to keep that in mind. So also make sure to check out this video up here if you want to see some best budget phones. But yeah, but computers are better to get on a budget because they will usually last longer than a phone, especially if you get on a budget. Alright, enough of that, let's get into it. Alright guys, so you might want to jump onto your computer or your phone or something, or a friend's computer or something like that, as obviously if you're looking at this video, you might not have your own computer yet. So yeah, so I just looked at used laptops on eBay and set the maximum price wherever I can find it to $50. So yeah. And here it gives you the choice of operating system. Chrome OS is a Chromebook, so if you like Chromebooks like me. So Chromebooks are basically Chrome in an operating system. Like everything runs around Chrome. It's basically the Chrome web browser with a window manager, pretty much. So it's the web browser, and it will run web apps and Chrome apps, and that is it. I like Chromebooks because they're lightweight and fast, and when it comes to web browsing stuff and web apps, they get what I needed to get done. They get done, but they won't run very many actual apps. It's just all web apps. So if you want to do one with Chrome OS, you might want to get one with a different operating system, like Linux or Windows, because then you can erase it and install Chrome on it, and then dual boot it with Linux so that you can run Chrome apps and Linux apps, so you're not limited to just that web app feel. And then but if you get a Chromebook, Chromebooks have some weird BIOS thing, so it prevents it. It's just, you have to modify the BIOS to install another system on a factory Chromebook. So I would, unless you're sure for sure that you actually want a Chromebook and that will do what you need it to do, but then it's fine. But if you want to run something else, I would recommend getting a computer with Linux or something else. Or one with a no operating system included if you guys want to install it yourself. But if you buy a used computer, you're most likely going to install an operating system yourself. Like this one, if you want a Chromebook, 2 gigabytes of internal storage or RAM, I can't even tell. But Chromebooks don't come with very much storage, and it is very, very annoying. But that's kind of what makes them so cheap. So, if you're not comfortable with installing operating systems, then either one, you can get one that comes with an operating system. Just be aware that it may be slow, because especially if it's Windows, because like with Windows, every 3 years you're gonna have to reinstall it and stuff. But you can go watch some of my other videos if you want about how to install Linux and other OSs on your computer, and that hopefully will make you feel more comfortable. Like $9 plus $8 shipping. Like Chromebooks are so darn empty box. Yeah, you might want to be careful about that, because that almost fooled me. Chromebox is a desktop Chromebook, pretty much. It's not the laptop. You hook it up to a monitor and everything. So yeah, Chromebooks you can get for pretty cheap. Now let's see. If you guys want a brand new one, you could do Windows 10, but most likely if it has Windows 10, then it's the $50 max price. If it has Windows 10, it's probably a very terrible computer with like a broken hard drive or something like that. So, but it will, some of them like this one, they'll be a little more expensive, but they will have a little bit modern standards. That doesn't look like Windows 10. Oh, never mind. Okay, anyway, so, yeah, so you might not want to get one of these because it could so easily have something wrong with them, especially something with 2 gigabytes of RAM, like this little thing. There's no way that can actually run Windows 10 at a good speed. Even if it can run it at a good speed, it's just not worth it. Windows 10 is the worst system you could possibly get. So full of bugs and everything. Most of the computers, especially like small ones like this, like nowhere even close to be able to run any version of Windows. Honestly, Windows plus old computer doesn't go together. If you're getting an old computer, you're gonna want to install Chrome or Linux. That's just my opinion. So, but if you're not comfortable with installing your own operating system, then obviously you can risk getting one with Windows. But I'd rather get a Chromebook. If I'm not gonna install a system, then I'd much rather get a Chromebook than anything running Windows. So let's see, you're on maybe less of a budget, but you still want it affordable. Let's maybe get something with, let's try out Windows 7. So computers that come with Windows 7 are often pretty close to modern computer standards and kind of a low cost, but as I said before, Windows just doesn't do well in the long run. Okay, here we are. Just let me say this, an Acer Aspire 1. I have one of these. I just installed Windows on it a long time ago. Windows Vista, I'm sure. That was the only one I actually owned a disc to, but it was awful. It was absolutely terrible. So if it can't run Vista, there's almost no chance it will be able to run 7 at a good speed. So, yeah, you're definitely, especially if you get an old laptop with Windows 7, you're definitely going to want to install another system. Dell Inspiron, I do use one of those. I have 3 laptops. This is my first one I got. Looks like a 40 gigabyte hard drive. Dell Inspiron 6000. I use a 1500 and it has Windows 7. Yeah, most of these computers with Windows 7 are pretty good with Linux. Now, as much as we all love the great Windows 7, it is Windows, my friends, and Windows does not do well long term. You're much better off running a Linux system. Now, maybe you need something even cheaper, and you still can't find something that you like. Maybe let's try something with Windows XP, because one of my computers actually came with XP. The Acer Aspire one I was talking about, that actually came with XP, and that thing works just like a charm. That thing runs fine on Linux. Absolutely fine. It doesn't matter whether you have 32-bit or 64-bit. If you put Linux on that thing, it's going to do good no matter what. Okay. So it looks like all these computers run XP. Now, here's the worst thing to do. Reinstalling Windows. You're going to have to pay for a Windows system, you're going to have to pay to activate it, and it might not even run that well, honestly. So just don't do it. You're risking it not running well on your computer, and you're paying hundreds of dollars for it. It's not worth it, honestly. Just get Linux. I know I've said it a billion times, but I'm serious. Just get Linux. Okay. Maybe let's try something for $25, because XP computers, like, they could be from 2001 or later, but most of them are probably from, like, 2008, 2009, something like that. But, yeah, like, this one, no HDD. Oh, that is kind of a bummer. Here's a cool thing, though. You can, if you looked at my video on how to install Debian on a USB, check that link up there. You can actually install Linux on a USB and run it from a USB. So if you have like a 120 gigabyte USB or a 32 gigabyte USB, it doesn't really matter. You can install Linux on it and set the computer to always boot from the USB. It is just a little more of a drag, and you have to bring a USB around, and you have to keep it in the computer all the time. I'd kind of recommend having it have a hard drive, but if you don't care about that, then go ahead and do it. And honestly, if you have a computer sitting in the garage with a dead hard drive, just use that. Like, even if it's a desktop, like I personally did. Maybe I should have done a video on it, but I personally installed Linux Mint on a USB and put it in an old desktop computer without a hard drive, and it worked. So I brought back a computer without a hard drive that still doesn't have a hard drive, and it works just fine. So that's probably more likely for a desktop. But see, like, these computers are so cheap. So cheap. The Asus EEE PC. Now, that computer, EEE PC, was, a very low-end computer. So Linux is probably the only thing it will work best on. And let's be honest, like, even if you install XP or something on it and it runs fine, there aren't too many programs that will run on XP anymore. Now, Linux in the past few years has gone way up. Now, like, I know the normal used to be, like, maybe 10 years ago, the normal was, like, people would create software for Windows and Mac, and that's it. But now, a lot of software companies out there and people who make software are actually starting to include Linux. So you can easily find software for Linux these days. And plus, not to mention, Linux has a software store and a package manager. So you can easily just download software in 2 minutes without having to search the internet for software on Linux. Like stuff like this one for parts. Alright. So a lot of... Let's kind of get into parts. So this is kind of as cheap as it goes. I wouldn't go old, especially with laptops. I wouldn't go older than anything running XP because, I just wouldn't do it. Like XP. I mean, anything running XP is probably the oldest it gets when it comes to meeting modern standards. Like, Windows XP machines are like they are the machines that have the oldest hardware that's still relevant, that lots of things still support. So I wouldn't get anything older than XP. If it runs XP, it will probably get the job done, and it's pretty good. But if it doesn't run XP, then it's just a waste of your time, honestly. I mean, maybe you could run something like Puppy or Tiny Core Linux on it, but still. Okay. So that was used laptops. Now maybe let's do computers. Now, like a normal desktop computer. Now, let's see. Yeah, desktops and all-in-one computers. Now, honestly, desktops would probably be more expensive, but they also tend to have better hardware than laptops. So, yeah. So you might want to look at that. It will, yeah. They're more expensive, but they have better hardware than laptops usually. I mean, obviously, if you're running Linux, there's not much of a difference, but so they'll probably be more expensive. Maybe let's bump the minimum, the maximum back up to $50. In just a minute, guys, we're going to go over some new computers. We're not just going to do used. And obviously, we're going to include Chromebooks in this, because when it comes to cheap computers, Chromebooks absolutely dominate. Okay. HP ProDesk, like, see, stuff like that. They're like little computers. Like, you could get this for $50. Like, awesome. An Intel Core with 2 gigabytes of RAM, no HDD. You could still run USB on it, just like I said. You could still just run Linux from a USB. Now, that is honestly a good deal. Whether it has an HDD or not, that is a pretty good deal. It has pretty good hardware other than the hard drive. And this one, no HDD, no OS. Again, no problem. It's a custom build. It's 8 gigabytes of RAM, an i3 3.3 gigahertz processor for, plus that much for shipping. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, you might want to look at the shipping stuff. But that one up there, where was it? Now that is just a deal. And it's fast and free shipping. That is amazing. Okay, let's get out of here. Now, let's go to some new computers. Sorry, this is it's usually much faster than this. It's just screen recording on. You guys know how it is. Alright, Alright, so let's look at some Chromebooks. Oh, I also want to get to two other things. The Raspberry Pi and then the Pinebook. Like, you can get a Raspberry Pi for as cheap as $5. I'm serious, but, I mean, it doesn't have Wi-Fi capabilities. The Raspberry Pi Zero is $5, and that is very easy to set up and everything. It doesn't have very many ports, though. So, like, if you're looking for a $50 computer, just get, like, the Raspberry Pi 4. Comes with a Wi-Fi card. Something like, I think it ranged from 512 megabytes to 4 gigabytes of RAM, stuff like that. Alright, so yeah, we'll just go to the Google site for Chromebooks. Now, the Pinebook is a $100 laptop that runs on a single board, computer inside. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention one thing about Chromebooks. Some of them can actually run Play Store apps, so Android. They can run Android apps, and then some can even run Linux apps. Well, it just gives you the Linux terminal, and you can install a package manager and everything, blah, 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 whatnot. So yeah, I forgot to mention some Chromebooks can do that. Honestly, I forget some Chromebooks can do that since my Chromebook can't do that. But yeah, so that's good. Yeah. Meet Chrome OS, the speedy, simple, and secure operating system that powers every Chromebook. It is amazing, trust me. How do I make the switch? Oh, it's easy. Because it's so much better than Windows. You don't even need to answer that question. Okay. So, let's shop some Chromebooks. As I was saying, the Pinebook, it runs some old version of a Linux distro with KDE. Doesn't matter. Honestly, there are some very, very, very expensive Chromebooks. There are also some that are pretty cheap, like this one. Let's see price. Let's go to price. And let's bring the range down to like here. See, these do actually get pretty cheap, and you can get them used too now. Chromebooks, like phones, do have the power wash feature. It's basically a factory data reset, and Windows and Linux both don't have this actually, and neither does, I don't think Mac does either. So if you're getting a used Chromebook, you could actually factory data reset it just like you would getting a used phone, and bam, and it's running just like new. When Windows, you have to reinstall it. You have to pay to do that, and you have to pay to activate it, and nobody likes that. Alright, so yeah, those are some Chromebooks. Now let's go over the Raspberry Pi. So they can go to as little as $5. It is amazing. And then there's also the Raspberry Pi Zero W that does have Wi-Fi support. So the thing is with the Raspberry Pi, it has an ARM processor, so that might be kind of a problem. There is a port of Debian called Raspbian that is meant for the Raspberry Pi. It will run, it's basically Debian ported to an ARM architecture. There are some other Linux distributions out there that support ARM, but not a lot do. There aren't too many options, but a big one is Android. With an ARM processor, you could probably get a Raspberry Pi and dual boot it with Android and Raspbian, so you have Linux and Android, a computer and a smartphone, which we gotta admit, that is pretty cool. Okay. So, the latest Raspberry Pi is the yeah, there's also the Raspberry Pi Zero. I don't know when this thing is gonna respond. Hello. Oh, okay, here we are. So, Raspberry Pi 1 Model B. That's the final addition to the Raspberry Pi. Original one. Raspberry Pi 2. I'd recommend getting a Raspberry Pi 3 at least, or a Raspberry Pi 4. There's Raspberry Pi Zero W with wireless and Bluetooth connectivity. Our lowest cost single board computer is the Raspberry Pi Zero with $5. But as you can see, it doesn't have very many ports, and it's kind of annoying. So, yeah. Alright, last but not least, let's go over the Pinebook. Okay. Now,
Pinebook does not come with the best system. It comes with like a super outdated thing running KDE Plasma, or I can't even remember honestly, but yeah, but you can always install another operating system on it, and it's amazing. You can, well, I mean, as you can with pretty much any computer, you could just install another operating system easily. So instead of installing something like the oldest version of KDE, you can get Debian LXQT or LXDE or something like that. So it has 64-bit. It's specifically meant for ARM processor. ARM. It's pretty much a Raspberry Pi. Like, I actually didn't know that. So they range from around $150, and quad-core processor, quad-core GPU, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 1080p bootable micro SD card slot. So this was also a thing with the Pine phone. You can put in a bootable SD card and boot from that. So you can install an OS on an SD card and boot from that. So that's actually pretty cool. Don't know what that is. HD video out, so an HDMI out. 2 USB ports. A lithium battery. Okay, so that looks like a lot. 10,000. Now that's pretty crazy. I'm not sure about that. Stereo speakers, Wi-Fi plus Bluetooth, headphone jack, built-in microphone, a built-in front-facing camera, 0.3 megapixels, that's it? Like, really? Like, my computer has like a 2.3 megapixel. Well, that's ridiculous. Anyway, a full-sized keyboard, a large trackpad. I don't really like giant trackpads. They're kind of annoying. I don't know what that is. So, yeah, it's pretty low spec, especially for modern standards. You'll probably be better off getting an older computer, honestly. But, honestly, it might work for some people. You never know. You might want this more. So, it does have a sleek, modern design. So, yeah. Might want to check that out. And that's it for this video.
You guys so much for watching this video. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button right there so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Also be sure to check out this up here for a best budget phones video. A video on all the best budget phones you can get out there. And also be sure to subscribe if you would like a Raspberry Pi PC build guide video. Because I will do a Raspberry Pi build guide video if we can get 15 subscribers on this channel. So if you don't want to miss out on that, please make sure that you subscribe down below, and we'll see you next time.